Hi, thanks for joining me and welcome back to the channel. So apologies for not being here for a little while, but I will explain, and this would be quite a little short video, but I just wanted to make a video to explain where I've been, what I've been up to and what I'm planning. Okay, so the first of all, the thing is I was planning on doing, I've got this Alanis Morissette Jagged Little Pill, which I haven't even listened to yet. More on that in a minute. And another record I had bought a couple of weeks ago, The Divine Comedy, Rainy Sunday Afternoon, again, which I haven't listened to yet. These are both things that were contesting for potential videos of the sort of weekend of the 27th, 28th of September. And I just wanted to add, I did actually pick this up yesterday. So, again, that's a video that's coming soon. And in addition to those, we've got the Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway 50th Anniversary Edition, which I have bought the vinyl set. I haven't actually got that here at the moment. There's a very good reason why that's not here, which all will be revealed in due course. And the other thing I was going to do was a kind of my top 10 Genesis albums. I did one a couple of years ago now on Yes, which I'll put a link to up here. And I've been long planning to do a Genesis version of the same. And following my most recent Genesis video was Abacab, which funnily enough has grown on me quite a lot since doing the video. And I have actually now gone out and bought all 4 of the original cover variants, just for the hell of it, because they're not expensive. And but anyway, a Genesis album ranking sort of a special feature episode will be coming quite soon as well. But there was a big spanner in the works, and that was basically on the Tuesday the 23rd. I had a massive chest pain. I didn't know what it was. Wednesday the 24th had another one. Thursday the 25th had another, and almost I was out walking and almost didn't get home. Phoned the ambulance, and they came and took me to the Royal United Hospital in Bath, where they did various tests, and it turns out basically I'd been having heart attacks. So I was in there from Thursday the 25th until Tuesday the 30th, and they did like I say, a zillion tests, and angioplasty, which is putting balloons in through your wrist, which is why I'm kind of covered in bruises, and I really am covered in bruises. They can sort of open up collapsing arteries, and they put a stent in as well. And here I am, still alive on a zillion medications, but still here. And that's what I really wanted to sort of just let regular viewers know. Now, I will give a shout out, a massive shout out, in fact, to the ambulance crew who turned up. Literally within minutes. There's an awful lot of people in the UK like to moan about the NHS, and the NHS is something that I grew up thinking made Britain very, very special, because I know that an awful lot of countries don't have this, a truly national health service that will treat anybody. And it's the ambulance turned up, and special thanks to Carol, a Polish paramedic, who came in with his partner, and they I think that his partner's name was Molly, but I don't absolutely remember that. But, you know, they kind of came in and checked me out, gave me some medication, gave me an ECG. And this is quite funny because I've downloaded the ambulance report here. And it says on here, you know, patient walks out to ambulance to meet crew, you know, blah, 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 capacity checked, consent gained, history obtained, ECG checks and recorded, respiratory checks and assessed, etc., etc., etc. Patient walked around showing crew his vinyl collection. And I think that's quite hilarious to have that on my medical history, but there we go. So massive, massive, massive shout out to Carol, thanks mate, who by the time we got to hospital had subscribed to the channel. So I hope he's watching this video, and it was great to meet you. And I will also say a massive thank you to all the staff at the Royal United Hospital in Bath, who are just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. You know, I can't complain about the service, the treatment I had whatsoever. It's brilliant. But that kind of explains why there's been a bit of a lull in the videos recently. Okay, I've been off narrowly avoiding dying. So while I was in hospital, there's a couple of things that sort of struck me. One of them, which again I found highly amusing, but you know, regular viewers will know my sense of humour, and that was the announcement of the latest acoustic sounds videos, and here's a screenshot of Jonathan announcing their latest release. I haven't ordered this one, but I have also ordered the Billy Cobham Spectrum album, which I've had notification is in the post and it will be delivered next week. So add that to the list of forthcoming videos, but it's a phenomenal record. Now the other thing that I wanted to really say is, you know, and this is why I'm not doing any of those videos that I mentioned today. And what I am doing today is I just want to talk a little bit about Danny Thompson. Now, I got into Danny Thompson at some point after getting into folk music. And I got into folk music really, I would say, through Richard Thompson. And I have to say, for a while, I thought Richard Thompson and Danny Thompson were brothers, but they're absolutely not, even though they've played together a load of times. And Danny Thompson, as most of you I'm sure will have known, died very recently, and so, you know, was certainly on my mind when I was in hospital. And one thing I find when I'm in sort of life-changing situations like being in hospital recovering from heart attacks is it can affect your musical taste, and I found myself very, very, very drawn towards folk, basically. I can remember the first time I had a very significant, basically I broke my back, and was sort of, you know, had, you know, spinal surgery, and, you know, sometime sort of on morphine thereafter, and pretty much all I could listen to at that point in time was either Billie Holiday or Miles Davis, and, you know, that something that I liked became a real deep love. And what happened this time was folk really, really, really kind of resonated, if you like. And I think part and parcel of that is the passing of Danny Thompson. But folk is something that sort of, you know, with all my musical sort of, you know, all the genres of music that I like, it does sort of ebb and flow depending on how I'm feeling. I'll go from, you know, I'll go through phases of one type of music or another. And so, yeah, folk was something that I was listening to almost exclusively in hospital. A lot of Pentangle, because obviously Danny Thompson was in Pentangle, even though I don't really think you would classify Pentangle as folk. I think Pentangle is really kind of prog, because they play in vastly different time signatures, within one song or from song to song. They take influences from jazz, from blues, from folk. I think that probably covers Pentangle, actually: jazz, blues, folk, and medieval music, which I think is sort of tied in with folk in my way of looking at it. An incredible band, and obviously Danny Thompson was right at the core of that. Even though it was a John Renbourn and Bert Jansch kind of, I think they conceived the idea of Pentangle. Danny Thompson was and Terry Cox, the drummer, and obviously Jackie McShea. The five of them. For me, there's only one Pentangle, and that's that first lineup, which I think lasted from 68 to 72, and I think did 5 albums, maybe 6. Anyway, so you've got the Pentangle thing. Now, another way that I discovered Danny Thompson, and this was where I discovered Richard Thompson, was through Norma Waterson. And obviously the Watersons are another great folk kind of dynasty, if you like. And Martyn Carthy was he married Norma Waterson and joined the Watersons, and he famously, I think, taught Paul Simon and Bob Dylan Scarborough Fair. Obviously Bob Dylan turned that song into Girl from the North Country, which is one of my absolute favourite Bob Dylan tracks. The one with the duet with Johnny Cash. I just think it's staggeringly beautiful, absolutely amazing. And Martyn Carthy I've met on countless occasions, sometimes been within touching distance when he's been performing in bands with just him and Dave Swarbrick, or in all sorts of capacities. But there's they also, there's a Norma Waterson album, and I'm going to get on to 10 phenomenal albums which every music-loving audiophile should have, featuring Danny Thompson, okay? And that's really the theme of this review. So I'm going to kick it off where it kind of started for me, which is with Norma Waterson's solo album. Now, that's the only one of these that hasn't been released on vinyl, so I haven't got an LP sleeve to hold up in front of you. It was only ever released on CD. I will, forever put the wishes out into the ether that it can be revisited and put on vinyl. It's a beautiful album. Well, we've got Martyn Carthy on rhythm acoustic guitar, which he would nearly always play with Norma Waterson, his wife. You've got Norma's daughter, Eliza Carthy, Norma and Martyn's daughter, Eliza Carthy on backing vocals and violin. And then very critically for me, and this is where a very charming, beautiful song just absolutely blew my socks off. This solo album, it was 1996, and there's a song on it called There Ain't No Sweet Man Worth the Salt of My Tears. But you've got Richard Thompson on sort of lead guitar, I think it's still an acoustic, and Danny Thompson on double bass. And I think if anything, Richard Thompson stands out. But it was, as I say, it was a song that just utterly captivated me. It is absolutely delightful. The melodies, it is the playing, the sort of the joy and light in it is staggering. And I just urge everybody to have a listen. I'm going to put a link up here to a video online where they're playing this live, I think on Jules Holland's later program, and just have a listen, and if it lifts your heart, look out the album, and maybe follow me on this journey through the wonderment of Danny Thompson. Okay, so what I'm going to play next is something from the similar sort of era, because over my life, there's been many records that have come out where, you know, I've only bought one record from a band, or just, you know, they're just jaw-droppingly good. And the next record I'm going to mention is Sam Brown's album Stop. Now, this was 1988, and I've only got this one album from Sam Brown. Again, I have seen her live at least once. The whole album is just jaw-droppingly good. You know, it's great sounding. It's great sort of bluesy pop music, bluesy soul pop music. But the roster of artists on this album is phenomenal, jaw-droppingly good. And there's only one track that features Danny Thompson, and it's called Piece of My Luck. But it is just, you know, anyone watching this channel, I know that you all love sound quality. You love it to, you know, you love listening to your music, and you love it to sound good. And this is a fantastic sounding record. Piece of My Luck, it's got Danny Thompson on double bass, which is, you know, pretty much exclusively his instrument. I don't think I've ever heard him playing, you know, an electric bass, but, you know, don't quote me on that. But it's just phenomenal. So there we are, Sam Brown's Stop, and I'm going to, I have got all the rest of these on vinyl. And this is my copy of that. And this was, as I say, this came out in 1988. It's a phenomenal sounding album. Okay, now, following on this theme of records which just feature one song with Danny Thompson on it, but that are phenomenal sounding records that really every audiophile should have. And I'm sure every audiophile has got this one. This was probably the #1 audiophile demo record for the sort of 80s, I think, when I was working in hi-fi retail and for sort of hi-fi manufacturing. This is a staggeringly good sounding record. And the very first track on it, Happiness is Easy, anyone who knows it will just know there's just some just phenomenally recorded sort of guttural, deep, twangy, amazing sounding bass notes. And of course it's Danny Thompson, who else? And again, you just absolutely have to have this if you like great music that sounds phenomenal. There are very few albums that actually sound better than this. It's an astonishingly good sounding record. And although Danny Thompson only plays on one track, the whole album sounds phenomenal, and it is phenomenal. It's not just about sound quality. It's you know, it's really deep, meaningful, kind of thought-provoking, intelligent songwriting, done in a, you know, this is the thing, you know, 80s pop. You know, we've got Sam Brown, we got Stop, and you'll see what's coming next as well. This is pop music, really, but it's pop music which I think you could justifiably argue was verging on prog. It is made by gifted, very, very, very gifted musicians, and you know, it's not about ego and like shit like that. You know what I mean? Anyway, another cracker. And then the third album that I'm going to present here that just features one Danny Thompson track on it is Kate Bush's Hounds of Love. Now, Thompson plays on, you know, there's at least one track on The Dreaming and also on 50 Words of Snow, both of which I've got, and well, I've got all the Kate Bush albums. But this album here is just a standout, and again, everyone knows it. I'm absolutely sure. You just might not know that Danny Thompson played on it. And he plays on the track Watching You Without Me, which is basically just drums or drums and percussion, and his bass, and it's just deep and guttural and you know, cosmic almost, and then Kate's just multi-layered vocals over the top. It's only one track on an album, but it's part of an album that is you know, one of the greatest albums ever made, in my opinion. And again, sounds phenomenal. And, you know, well done, Danny Thompson. Now, what we're going to go to next are albums that feature more than one track from Danny Thompson, of course. So we got 1, 2, 3 there. Now, I say this is my top 10. It's not in any order as such. It really isn't. It absolutely isn't. Now, this one here, this is the earliest album I've got that features Danny on it. And this is from 1967, I think. Yeah, July 1967. The incredible string band, the 5,000 Spirits, or the Layers of the Onion. And Danny Thompson was a full-time member of this band. And it's phenomenal sounding. You've got this sort of acoustic guitars, and this is a theme that will come up again and again in I think in every album that follows from this. Now, it's interesting, I mentioned about Danny Thompson and Richard Thompson, that I thought that they were brothers for a good while when I first heard of them. Richard Thompson is one of my all-time favourite guitarists, and he plays electric guitar and he plays acoustic guitar, and it's I think, that Norma Waterson song I mentioned earlier on, just listen to that and see what Richard Thompson's doing, or listen to what Richard Thompson's doing. It's about the touch and the lightness and the melody and the joy and the passion and the fun and the feeling. It's not about thrashy, hard, fast, rock. That's not about it at all. And I don't think, I am not a heavy metal fan. For me, hard, fast and loud is not good. What's good is delicate, lyrical, sensitive, and just searching and playful and joyful. Now, this isn't one of my favourite albums, but it is the earliest album that I've got with Danny Thompson on it, and it's a nice album. It's fun. It's definitely fun. It's well and truly out there, but it has got this just crystalline sort of multiple kind of acoustic guitar sounding with double bass thing going on, and again, it has to be said, and it's got an amazing cover. So there we go, the incredible string band. So I'm going to leave the obvious, the Pentangle, till last, and you can view that in any way you want as to whether they are the absolute most definitive, and I frankly think that they are. But this is what comes up next. John Martyn's Solid Air. Now, this was February 73, and on this album here you've got, I'm sure most people would have heard this a lot. It was a very, very regularly played album amongst my circle of friends at university, and you got the title track Solid Air, I'd Rather Be the Devil, May You Never. There's some incredible songs on there, and Danny Thompson plays bass throughout, double bass throughout. But what you've got here is you've got someone whose guitar, sort of acoustic guitar skills are just off the planet, and it's that touch and feel and intricacy and melody and magic, And I think that's when you get Danny Thompson with a guitarist like that, see, with John Martyn, with Richard Thompson, we've already mentioned, very magical things happen. This is a beautiful album. Again, it sounds phenomenal. This is on the Pink Rim Island label, which would have been the original. This is an original. And it sounds phenomenal. And if you haven't got a copy already, just do go and get one. But look out an original. You don't want reissues of these sorts of things. Now, the next one is actually quite a similar thing. Nick Drake, 5 Leaves Left. And again, I'm sure most of you will know of Nick Drake. He made 3 albums in his lifetime, and there's been all sorts of sort of bits and bobs releases since. And I've, time and time again bought reissues, and they all sound rubbish. So you really want, I think everyone really wants an original. I really want an original, but I haven't got one because they can go for literally thousands. Now this is a, I mean it's an early, it's an early island, and what's quite surprising about this, this is a sort of mid-70s label, or early to mid-70s label. I'd have to look it up. But the matrix number on this is still A3U. Now the first pressings I think were A2U, and I think they'd repressed, so we're using A3U plates by about 1971, 72. So it's got very early metalwork, this is, and it's a phenomenal sounding record. Now Danny Thompson doesn't play bass on every single track on this, but I think he plays on 4 tracks: Time Has Told Me, 3 Hours, Cello Song, Man in a Shed, and Saturday Sun. Okay, so 5 songs, isn't it? And Nick Drake again is a phenomenal acoustic guitarist. And you know, forget your thrash guitar and your rock guitar and everything else. This is about just delicacy and melody and you know, dancing, if you like. Just joy, heavenly joy on the guitar. It's amazing stuff. And again, when you put Danny Thompson with a guitarist like that, magic happens. And what's also really interesting on here is on Time Has Told Me, which is probably, well, I don't know, is it the most famous song on this album? I don't know. Time Has Told Me or Riverman would be, I'm sure. But Richard Thompson plays the electric guitar. So again, you've got those guys coming together and, you know, absolute magic happening. A phenomenal record, again, which I'm sure you've all got. But anyway. And then the last 3, so, you know, call them 8, 9 and 10 in my top 10, if you like, or 1, 2, 3 in my top 10. Because it is, you know, these 3 are, well, let's show you. These 3 are all Pentangle records. So we've got, in reverse chronological order, if you like, we've got Basket of Light from 1969, Sweet Child from 1968, November 68, and their debut album from May 1968. And what we have here, so we've got, you can see the names, well, you probably can't actually, because you've got Bert Jansch and John Renbourn, who were the 2 founders of the band. There's no question of that. They were playing together, and in fact, the album that preceded this is called Bert and John, which I have got. It's a brown covered record. It's on the same transatlantic label. And funnily enough, when I got my phono stage all those many years ago, about 15 years ago, I can still to this day remember that was the first album I ever played on that. Because these things sound absolutely, utterly phenomenal. I'm going to show you the label of these. All these are on this same, they're all on the transatlantic label, and the original transatlantic label, or the one from this period, is this one here with purple printing on a white background. And these things sound staggering. It's very similar to the immediacy and presence of sound that I talk about with the sort of, you know, those late 50s, you know, Louis Armstrong and Art Pepper and Sonny Rollins and that kind of stuff, except this is, you know, proper stereo. But the immediacy and presence is absolutely stunning. So you've got Bert Jansch and John Renbourn, both sing. Bert does more singing than John, and both play acoustic guitars. And then what's harder to see here, because it's in a sort of a buff coloured print, you've got Terry Cox on drums and Jackie McShea on vocals and Danny Thompson on double bass. And it is, this is just, I mean, Let No Man Steal Your Time, that's the first track. It's you'll look it up on YouTube if you don't know it. It is staggering, and I think this is. I like to think of it as a bit proggy, really, but it's sort of, it's as much jazz as it is folk, and it's as much. I think the most thing it is probably jazz, folk. I mean, I can't rock. I don't know, jazz, folk, rock, jazz, folk, prog. I think is probably the best, or jazz, folk, blues, prog. It's astonishing stuff. The sound quality, the recording quality of this, the musicianship, and the completely sort of, because you've got these four musicians and the female vocal, but at times you might have four male vocals and a female vocal, or certainly three. It's like a kaleidoscope that just swirls and captivates. And I don't think there's no time within listening to a Pentangle album to get bored. You're just absolutely taken along a beautiful, melodic, lyrical roller coaster of eye-opening, startling musicianship, and in a staggering sound quality. It's an amazing album. This is their debut from May '68. And then this one here, this is the second album from November '68. It's a double album, and interestingly, the first LP is recorded live at the Royal Festival Hall in June '68. And the second album is a studio album. So, you've got Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, you've got Haitian Fight Song, which is Danny Thompson's sort of solo interpretation of a Mingus composition. It's there's bluesy songs, there's spiritual songs, there's folky songs, there's traditional songs, there's almost medieval songs. It is just, but everything played with a almost jazz fusion. I think Thompson did actually play with John McLaughlin in an outfit just prior to the Pentangle, I believe. I'm not sure, may have got that timing wrong, but it's no great surprise either, because it's amazing stuff. And these records sound startlingly good, unbelievable recordings. And again, as I say, this is on that white and purple transatlantic label. Thoroughly recommended. And now I've left this one till last, and this is definitely the most popular Pentangle album, because it's got their biggest hit, which was used as a TV theme tune, Light Flight. And it's an amazing. I can't really pick between these three. I like to think that Sweet Child's my favourite, just because it's slightly more obscure. But Light Flight is absolutely staggering. It's just beautiful. I'm one of my other passions, other than music, is actually steam railways. And there's a song here, train song, End Side One, which is kind of a lament for the passing of the steam train, it says. And then you've got, Sally Go Round the Roses. It's a beautiful, wonderful, melodic, fabulous kind of folk song, and the hunting song again. It's staggering music, really staggering music. And once again, I'll tell you, just if you're going to go out and look for a copy of this album, look for one with this white and purple label. No, that's the first issues, and these things are amazing, absolutely amazing. And anyway, with that, I think that kind of wraps up my appreciation of Danny Thompson. But I could have picked. I've got dozens of albums that he's played on. He's actually played on, by no means all, but a good bunch of Richard Thompson's solo albums. which I've got, and he's played on, as I say, he's played on 3 of the Kate Bush albums. He played on Peter Gabriel's Up. You know, he's played on, well, you know, he's played on an awful lot of albums by an awful lot of people. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. Apologies again for, you know, not being around for a couple of weeks, and you know, I will be getting on with the video. I'm not sure which one will come next, but whether it's a rundown of Genesis, the Lamb Lies Down 50th anniversary, the Alanis Morissette, Divine Comedy, Billy Cobham. I mean, that hasn't been delivered yet. That'll join the queue. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, want to see what's coming up next, please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you very much indeed. Bye now. Bye.